Welcome once again to Jazz Lockdown, the program that puts our regular panellists of Pete Long, Alan Barnes and Alex Garnett to the test. You are invited to donate as little as £1 towards each show, which will be equally divided between the contributors, with 50% of the total amount going to Macmillan Cancer Support, by following the PayPal link below. Chaired by Alyn Shipton, this episode's special guest is Karen Sharp.
Well, hello and welcome to the fifth of our second series of Jazz Lockdown. First of all, can I say a very big welcome to our special guest. So, Karen, hello.
Hello.
Hello, Karen.
Hello!
And we have Karen Sharp, we have, my goodness, it's Alan Barnes.
Hello, folks.
And what a surprise, Alex Garnett.
Hi.
And Pete Long.
Happy Sundays!
Well, as ever, we have an opening round where we just get into the feel of things. So let's start with Alan. So, Alan, what kind of talk contained Amy, Joanna, Laura, Gertrude, Emmeline, Jenny and Liza?
That sounds like girl talk.
It is. And would you like to elaborate a little on that?
Oh, I know. This is an album I did with, was it with Warren Vacher, Roy Williams?
It was indeed.
Yeah, it was all girls' names, and we all came up with arrangements of girls' names, songs with girls' names. And then John Bune, whose idea it was, and was the producer, came up with one, I Thought About You.
Yeah, and,
They're in stunned silence, and that's why that track's on there.
well, the producer's never wrong, is he? So, but, no, I noticed that, and I haven't listened to that since it came out. Well, it was only 21 years ago, so...
You're ahead of me then.
Right. So, Alan, whose old hands encouraged young minds, especially after supper?
This was an octet recording with Brian Lemon.
It was.
I can't remember whose octet it was. And After Supper was a tune by Neil Hefti, isn't it? It's
yeah, and it's 13 minutes long at the end of an album that otherwise has distressingly brief tunes.
Right. You mean my record?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
That record. It's the Brian Lemon Alan Barnes octet, actually.
Oh, right. Okay.
And interestingly, an octet which has both Alec Dankworth and Dave Green on different bits of the record.
Ah, they are.
Anyway, there we go. Pete,
Yes, sir.
time for you now. Who was cooking with gas behind the gasworks looking for some hot gospel?
That was a Nigel album sponsored by British Gas. And I think I was the soloist on Behind the Gasworks.
You were indeed lurking there in
Yes.
a very appropriate place.
20 quid's 20 quid, isn't it?
So, your second question.
Yes, sir.
Who backed up Bubble, or perhaps I should say Bubble, in her further adventures?
Her further adventures.
Yes. It's a fabulous clue. Absolutely fabulous clue.
Claire Teal.
No.
What's the... Did you say Bubble?
Bubble.
Bubble.
It's not a Greek, is it?
No. I think I better let you know what this is. So it's the further adventures of Little Voice with Jane Horrocks, who played Bubble
That's
in
right.
Absolutely Fabulous. And there's somebody called Alex Garnett on it, and there's somebody called Pete Long on it.
Yes, that's right. I did all the charts. There we are.
Well, 10 quid's 10 quid.
Yeah.
10 quid.
Now, Alex, talking about postponements, whose 13 birds were planned to migrate this autumn?
Oh,
Christine.
oh, yes. Fantastic piano player, but his name escaped me right now. Oh dear.
His name is the same as a well-known Austrian jazz musician. He's
Yes,
his uncle, I think.
yes. Hans Koller.
Absolutely right. Well done. And he was
I
going to have
remember
a
I sort of remember rubbing that out of the diary.
big band called Bird Migration.
That's right. Yeah.
Now, which long-term colleague of Tubby Hayes, Ronnie Scott, Humph and Bobby Williams has sermons on his website?
Oh, is that Spike Weld, is it?
It is. He has a special sermons column, some quite good ones there, actually.
Right.
Right, Karen. who did you go to Another Place with?
Oh, that's the recent album with Simon Thorpe and Colin Oxley.
It is, and you, of course.
And me.
And where would you have to pass a ford to get to a terminus?
Oh, very good. Yes, that's a couple of my tunes from previous album called The Sun, the Moon and You.
Very well done. I always like it when people can remember their penultimate album.
Yeah.
Right. We now come to the round which is a bit more difficult, and it's called Old and New Stuff. I'm going to start with Alex. So, Alex, who went one flight up in Paris in 1964?
Oh, that's Dexter Gordon.
It is.
It's one of his fantastic records, yeah.
Yeah, it's the one with Kenny Drew and Neil Tanning and Art Taylor. Who presented a very long inchworm in Paris a couple of years earlier?
Oh, it would have to be the soprano saxophone of John Coltrane.
It was.
Which
It's a 10-minute track on that classic Pablo Paris concert album.
Incredible, yeah.
Right. So the bonus question for you. Which saxophonist recorded a 14-minute version of All Blues in Paris with Miles at the beginning of that decade?
It must 14 minutes.
Yep.
Of All Blues.
Yep.
Ooh. Was it John Coltrane?
No.
Oh.
You get one more go and then I'll throw it open.
Was it George Coleman?
No, but it is that period when the tenor chair was switching around quite a lot. Anybody else know?
Sonny Stitt.
Yeah, Alan, you're right. Sonny Stitt.
Wow. Surprised Miles let him get away with that.
Right. So, Pete, who was Dizzy's original frontline partner on Groovin' High?
Dexter Gordon.
Yes. No pattern emerging here at all, of course. Who loved to boogie with Dizzy Gillespie?
Joe Carroll sang it. Coltrane played a tenor solo, sounding quite a lot like Dexter Gordon.
John Coltrane is the right
Art
answer.
Blakey as well, isn't it? Milt Jackson on piano and Percy Heath.
Well done. That was going to be the general bonus. Anybody knew who the pianist was, and you did. So you get your extra point for that. Right. The actual bonus question is, who took Bird's place in the Dizzy Gillespie Sextet in early 1946 when Parker stayed on in California?
Well, there were a couple of things, weren't there? I mean, it could go a lot of ways. That Sonny Stitt did some recording.
He was the first member, and that's the correct answer.
Good.
Right. Karen, when Dexter came calling, which pianist was with him who knew that Daddy played the horn?
Which pianist? Kenny Drew?
Yes. Well done. I think I'd have struggled with that one.
Great album. It's one of my favourites.
Kenny's son, Kenny Drew Jr., came to London with which big band in the 1990s?
1990s.
Yeah, and I think possibly just into the early 2000s as well.
No, I don't know.
Anybody else?
Is it Woody Herman's band?
No.
Mingus. Big
It was the Mingus Big Band. Well done, Alan. And bonus for anyone who knows this, who was playing Mingus's own Lion's Head bass in that band?
Wasn't Charles Davis, was it? No.
Was it Arnie Summergy?
No, though Arnie did do a couple of gigs with them that week. But no, this was somebody of Russian origin.
Yes.
It's Boris Kozlov,
Yes.
who owns that bass. Great guy, great player. I held the bass once in 1976 when Mingus had to go for a pee at the New Orleans Festival. He came off stage. Could you just hold this? So I held the bass.
What was it? How was it set up? The bass. It always sounds very, very twangy when he plays.
It's quite a high action.
Yeah.
Surprisingly high action for that time when people weren't really doing that. Right, Karen, back to you for your last one. Who was the long-term bassist with Sonny Rollins who played on all his last London concerts? One of the neatest hairdos in the business. A parting of impeccable straightness.
No, I don't know. I can't think.
Bradshaw.
Yeah, well done.
Oh,
Well, Crenshaw. Right, Alan.
Yeah.
Which alto player and occasional trumpeter was to be found on Mound Bayou with Helen Humes?
Well, the only trumpet and alto player I know is Benny Carter.
Oh, there's another one.
Oh, is there? Helen Humes, let me think.
You're thinking somebody who did quite a lot of jumping in the late 30s and early 40s.
Oh, Pete Brown.
Yeah, Pete Brown.
I didn't know he played the trumpet.
No.
He was quite a good trumpeter. So the rest of the band, though, he had two other part-time trumpeters in it. Well, one part-timer and one full-timer. He had Dizzy playing trumpet, and he also had Jimmy Hamilton, who we talked about in an earlier edition.
Many
And the
moves.
pianist was Sammy Price. Now, I think it has to be the only time that Dizzy and Sammy Price recorded together. Right. Bonus for anybody who actually knows what Pete Brown's middle name was. It has a Belgian ring to it.
Louis.
No. Just think
Poirot.
Belgium. What?
Poirot.
No. Good guess.
Otto.
Very close. No, his middle name is Ostend,
Oh,
Wow.
which I just thought was an amazing piece of information. Right, Alan. Pete Brown appears on a Norman Granz album called Alto Altitude from 1955. It's quite a well-known one on, I think it's on Mercury, but for a half point each, can you name any of the other alto players on Alto Altitude?
And what year was it? 55?
55.
Is
Oh.
Bostic on it?
Hang on, it's Alan's question.
Oh, beg your pardon.
But fortunately, he's not.
Good.
Oh, that cuts it down a bit. All right, let's go over to my regular standby of Benny Carter.
Nope.
No.
What?
Okay. Earl Warren.
No, that's a very good guess.
The other one that I couldn't remember the other week.
Who both took the alto chair in the Basie band after Earl Warren?
I always forget his name. You got this last time, Pete.
Is it Marshall Royal?
That's
Yeah.
it.
So half a point for Pete there for Marshall Royal. Anybody else want to come in on this one?
Sonny Chris?
No.
Sonny Stitt.
Swing player, isn't it?
Alto players who work for... Are they sort of Norman Grant's favourite?
Yes.
Willie Smith.
Yep. Well done.
Any more?
Smith.
There are three more.
Is it-
Shank.
Johnny Hodges?
Johnny Hodges.
And Tab Smith's not one of them.
No. The other two
Phil
are...
Woods?
Sorry?
Phil Woods?
No. The other two are Hilton Jefferson
Oh, yeah.
I know.
and Murray McCarran, who I thought was only a trombonist. Turns out he played alto in the Casa Loma Orchestra.
Yeah.
Didn't know that.
No, I didn't know that until I saw this album, and I thought, cool, that's an interesting one.
Is he not also on tenor and trombone on Art Pepper Plays It Plus 11?
I think he does.
He does, doesn't he?
I mean, the trombone saxophone double is a real rarity, I think. Not too many of them about. Anyway, talking, Alan, of doublers, which trumpeter and alto saxophonist cut an album called Bird with Strings Revisited in 2015 and worked in Bob Wilber's Bechet Legacy on trumpet?
Oh, Christ. I must know this.
He's one of two brothers.
One of two brothers.
Yeah.
We're not back to the Candolis, are we?
You're not, you're at the other end of the alphabet.
Other
That's a massive clue.
end of the alphabet. Z.
Yeah.
Ooh. You've got me on this week. I can't.
Anybody else?
No.
No.
Glenn Zottola.
Oh, no, I wouldn't have got that.
Of course, yeah. Glenn's, yeah.
All right.
You're right. He is at the other end of the alphabet.
I heard him playing with Woody Herman in New York in the 80s, and he's a pretty good alto player and one of the most tasteless trumpets.
I know
he's
they have a
probably watching.
Zottola mouthpiece, don't they? A Zottola.
Yeah, that's right. And
I
that's-
should have known that, yeah. An amazing paperweight.
Right, now we finished that round, and score's quite interestingly level this time. Karen, this is the bit where you have to go head-to-head with our other guests, so this is just for you.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is just run through some questions, and you've got 10 questions. If you get them all right, then you're up there with one or two of our previous guests. We've got two tied for first place at the moment. So, which large instrument were you encouraged to use by Humph?
Baritone sax.
Absolutely right. So, what links a Japanese festival, and a Wayne Shorter composition?
Ginza.
Yep. Which pianist and bassist has recently joined the staff at the annual Henley Jazz Workshop?
Which pianist and bass? What, he plays both?
Yeah.
Oh, Pete Billington.
Yes, well done. Which prop do you supply visually for the Alan Barnes Christmas Carol gigs?
That's usually cap belonging to Simon Thorpe.
Yep. So who was an early inspiration of yours claiming you'd be so nice to come home to?
That will be Al Cohn, Zoot Sims.
Yep. Which British pianist recorded creatively with Anthony Braxton in 1994?
Nicky Isles.
Yes. I wondered if you'd know that one. That's a good one. Of course, creatively being the Creative Jazz Orchestra.
Yeah.
Who made Braxton's compositions 175 and 126, those huge hits that he had back at that time. Who did you share frontline duties with over a brandy and beer?
Oh, that was Robert Fowler.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where would I find Blue Schmoo at 5 o'clock sharp?
On an album.
Yes.
I think it was, I can't remember what it was called. Till There Was You, I think. I think it was the
That's
first.
right. It was called Till There Was You. You did remember what it was called. There you go.
Yeah.
Who was playing Here and Now on tenor sax and after a difficult time came back for more? Somebody you stood alongside for quite a while.
Here Now, back for more. Joe Fuchs?
Yes. Back for more after her difficult time.
That's it, yeah.
And which of your fellow Humphrey Lyttelton musicians was occasionally mistaken for Arthur Scargill?
Adrian McIntosh, I imagine.
So you've got full 10. Very good.
It wasn't occasional, it's every time.
Thanks, Pete.
Right, we now come to the round called Just a Lockdown. So rules are very similar to a well-known Nicholas Parsons memorial game. People have to talk for 1 minute without hesitation, deviation or repetition. And we're going to start this time with Pete. I'm just going to get my stopwatch up and running. Pete, would you like to talk for 1 minute, starting now, on the bass saxophone? Off you go.
Bass saxophone first came into my life as part of the arrangements published by Harry Gold, the non-pariah of that instrument in the British traditional jazz scene. The bass saxophone is pitched in B flat and sounds 1 octave lower than its cousin instrument, the tenor, and is used mainly as an instrument for playing the bass lines in ensembles, but occasionally as a member of a larger texture in a saxophone section. In the video I have seen of Benny Goodman's band featuring Peggy Lee of Why Don't You Do Right, a bass saxophone is clearly visible in the section but is not being played. I once had the great misfortune to play a bass saxophone lent to me by a friend of Richard Pite on a gig at the Concord Club that Alan was on as well, where we celebrated 100 years of Cole Matheson. No, it wasn't. I've lost. I've left somebody with about 3 seconds.
Yeah, just hesitation, I would say.
Yes, definitely. Right. That's a very good run, Pete. Karen, can you talk for 2 seconds on the bass saxophone?
You was wrong.
Starting now.
Hesitation!
Pete, can you talk for half a second on the bass saxophone? Starting now.
So my circle of the bass saxophone came round with playing the bass saxophone in the Concord Club at that gig.
Very good.
Aww.
So successful challenges from both of you in that one. That was, but anyway, really fantastic run, Pete. And we were all just waiting. We ignored the 5 repetitions of instrument and...
yes.
But it's tactical play, isn't it? You let somebody stagger up to the finish line and then get them.
Yeah.
Spellbound.
Yeah, me too.
Right, Alex, it's your turn now. So we're going to ask you to talk on the topic of autograph hunters. So that obviously is something that everybody who has ever worked at Ronnie Scott's has been trampled nearly to death by, except during certain flies gigs. And now we'd like to ask you to start. So autograph hunters, starting now for 1 minute.
Autograph hunters can be a real pain, a real bind at the end of a gig.
Pete.
Repetition of real.
Yes, I'm afraid. So Pete, autograph hunters, starting now.
The Hawker Hunter was a very famous jet fighter from the Air Force in the mid-1950s, designed by the great Sidney Cam, who was also responsible for the Fury, Hurricane, Tempest and Typhoon. The Autograph Hunter was a special 5,000... Yeah!
Who squeaked? Was that Karen?
Yeah,
Was it Alan?
well, Alan as well.
Yeah. Let's give this one to Alan. So Alan, would you like to talk about autograph hunters?
I was going to ring for deviation, but you had me going then.
It doesn't have to be jazz, does it?
No.
No, that's true. Right, Alan, autograph hunters, starting now.
The worst case of autograph hunting going wrong I ever heard about was when somebody approached Oscar Peterson at an airport. I've got the story wrong already. It wasn't that fellow I've just mentioned.
No, continue.
General Crumble, wasn't it? General Crumble.
General Trouble. I was just pacing myself.
He's not playing this week. Right, Alex, I think you dinged just in time there. So would you like to pick up the subject once more of autograph hunters?
The autograph hunter can be a real pain in the butt after you've finished a very hard night's work and all you want to do.
Repetition of pain.
Yeah.
Yes, also repetition of real from the first time round.
Oh!
Then. But
I just
right,
can't get the swing of it.
Alan, off you go.
Stanley Turrentine was sat in the airport lounge when he was approached by a fan to sign his name on a record, which is a record of the pianist.
2 records.
Yep,
Yeah.
2 records, Pete. Good challenge. Right, Pete, you have it back. Starting now.
The 5,000th Hawker Hunter to roll off the production line at Dunsfold.
We've had Hawker Hunter before, haven't we?
We've had Hawker before, haven't you?
Yes,
you
you've had
have.
Hawker. Well
Yes.
done. Right, off we go. Alan, 3 seconds, starting now.
I actually know the people that usually come up asking me to sign anything.
Oh.
Oh, ending on a beautiful note of pathos. You get an extra mark for pathos.
Well, we'll keep that one in mind because once we've got a few other things like bathos and litotes, we can add them to the full range.
Yes, good.
Right. What is it? Is it a 7 point? No, I won't go there. Right, Karen, it's your turn.
Okay.
Would you like to talk on the subject of audiences that keep chatting? Starting now.
Audiences very often will chat through a jazz gig, and I found that as a performer it doesn't bother me at all. I'm usually not aware of what's going on, but when you go as a punter to see a gig and perhaps you're sitting in somewhere like Ronnie's and there's lots of people there who may not be there just for the jazz, they
Alan?
There, repetition of there.
Yeah, there were 2 theirs, but it's getting quite interesting, Karen. So, and anyway, let's hope you get it back in a minute. Alan, audiences that keep chatting, starting now.
Often I'm glad of the sound of audiences chatting because it means that perhaps some of the dubious changes that are coming my way and which I'm failing to...
Alex, you dinged just first.
You did.
What could that challenge possibly be?
Inflation.
Don't worry, you'll have it back in a moment.
Repetition of moment.
What?
Hasn't started yet. Right.
Oh,
Starting now.
Audiences chatting do have their place, especially when the bass player starts to solo, as is the norm. People like to have a little talk and catch up with their social parts.
I think that was your...
It was Alan's face
no,
there. It was,
Well, you mustn't look at Alan's face. What a schoolboy error, mate. Don't look at
Whatever you
Alan's face when you're trying to do this. He's hovering like a bespectacled vulture over your inadequate lexicon.
No, it was Mr. Shipton's face, actually.
It was during the bass solo bit. I just got a bit it's true.
That's all I could think of.
Oh.
Right. Okay, so Pete, it's with you now. So audiences that keep chatting.
There's a lovely story that Andy Kleindart tells about Ronnie's audience chatting so loudly that when he started to play the bass solo, the wave of chat came onto the bandstand like a tsunami of volume. So pronounced was it that at the end of the number, Ronnie...
Hey.
Oh,
Well done.
You want the end of the story?
Yeah, go on.
So pronounced. So it's this huge amount of chatting. No one could hear anything. It was the Friday, the Friday night in the old days, and the place was full of drunken yuppies. And Ronnie apparently was just leaning against the pillar on the mic, going, "Fire, fire, we're on fire," and nothing was happening.
Amazing.
Excellent. Right, Alan. Going back to something you were talking about earlier in terms of well-lubricated drinks, gigs, I mean. Your subject is drinks on the bandstand. So can you start now with drinks on the bandstand?
Drinks on the bandstand. Different bands have different approaches to this. Personally, I often think it looks unprofessional if you're at the Albert Hall, the Queen Elizabeth Hall, or another major venue.
Pete,
Thank
it
you.
wouldn't possibly be that R word, would it?
It was an R of hall.
Yes, it was indeed.
Oh,
Right,
sorry.
Pete, you have drinks on the bandstand starting now.
Drinks on the bandstand, from a band leader's point of view, are a double-edged sword because a small amount of on-stage drinking can make the musicians relaxed and aggressive and put on a good lots of bands.
Yeah.
You can't challenge yourself.
I've been watching The World at War about the Japanese combat ethics. So, rather than be captured, you must fall on your sword.
But we got two toots and a ding at the same time. So I think we will let Karen continue on this one. So
Yes,
Karen, would you like to pick up on drinks on the bandstand starting now?
from my point of view as a musician on the stand, I like to have a drink by my feet just in case I get a dry throat or if I'm nervous. When I used to play when I was much younger, I always drank pints of water on the stage because I found that it helped me.
There was a bell as well.
There was a what?
There was a bell as well, yes.
What did I do wrong?
The repetition of stage.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm afraid so. Alex,
Fine.
would you like to pick this one up then? So here we go. Talking on the drinks on the bandstand starting now.
Over the years, attitudes towards having drinks on the bandstand have changed. In the old days, you wouldn't be seen dead with any alcohol anywhere. Unfortunately, as time progressed, things got a little bit lax. People started wearing T-shirts, jeans, sandals, and drinking pints of beer.
Outrageous.
Very, very glad that you got to the end of the sentence. Fantastic. Well done.
Beautifully done.
Right. Now we come to the what's always the decider in this competition, the quickfire round. So I think it's just a question of go for it, and hopefully I'll spot it. And if two of you speak at once, you can sort it out amongst yourselves, and I'll jot something down. Right. So we're going to start with this interesting question. Mike Maneri was born on Independence Day in 1938. Which drummer born on that day joined the Basie band for 4 years, replacing Ray Perello?
Sonny Payne.
Nope. Later. I will answer it for you. It's Butch Miles.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Who wrote Butch and Butch in 1961?
Oliver Nelson.
Well done, Alex. Which film score did Nelson arrange from the original British score of a movie starring Michael Caine?
Alfie.
Yep. Who was the tenor player on that soundtrack?
Sonny Rollins.
That's fine.
I think Alex still got in there first. this
He
time.
did.
After a 2-year sabbatical, what was the title of Rollins's next release?
Bridge.
The bridge.
Karen was in first on that one. Who was Paul Bridges' band leader for 20 years?
Humphrey Littleton.
Yep. Well done. Following Hump's death in 2008, BBC TV paid tribute to him at the Brecon Jazz Festival with Scott Hamilton as a guest. What was the name of that concert programme?
Hump's Last Stand.
Yeah, that's right, Karen. Hump's Last Stand. Where in Tunbridge Wells does an annual string of gigs occur on a bandstand?
Oh,
Handbells.
Oh,
Yeah, Pete.
yeah.
Well done. Pots and pans is a derogatory term for which instrument?
Drum.
Drums.
I think you all get a point for that. Leave that one standing. Right. Which British drummer released an album in 1960 called Drums, Drums, Drums?
Phil
Keith
Seaman.
Bit,
Nope.
Tony Kinsey.
Right first name, wrong second name.
Oh, Tony O'Malley.
Nope.
Tony Crombie.
Yes, Pete, well done.
Well done.
Which band leader did Crombie tour the UK with on the recommendation of Lena Horne in 1948?
Duke Ellington.
Yep,
Yeah.
well done. Which Jamaican bassist was a founding member of the Ray Ellington?
Good.
I think Alan got in there first with that one. Coleridge played well into his 90s every Sunday lunch at Crouch End with which veteran drummer?
Laurie Morgan.
Pete was there first with that one. Morgan was instrumental in introducing which Jamaican alto player to the London scene in the 50s?
Harriet.
I think
Harold
Alan just picked that one. Right, who replaced Phil Seaman on drums in Harriet's band in the early 60s?
Bobby Orr.
Yeah, Alan, well done. During a varied career, Bobby toured 3 times in the UK with which American clarinetist?
Benny Goodman.
Pete, you were in there first. The English drummer, who was known as Benny Goodman, was mostly a member of whose band until his untimely death?
Jimmy Duker.
No, right generation.
You give us an instrument.
Yeah, tenor and
Piano.
tenor and vibes.
Tubby.
Yeah.
Oh,
Which band leading trumpeter did Tubby join aged 16?
Kenny Baker.
Yeah, well done. Accompanying Kenny Baker on the film Genevieve, who played the accordion?
Jack
Jack
Arrow.
Lowe.
No.
Stan Tracy.
Yes.
Oh, well done. Ben.
And apart from piano, which other instrument, as well as the accordion, did Stan Tracy play?
Vibes.
Well done, Pete. In 2015, who was the first British musician to be named one of the 12 best vibraphonists in
Jim
downbeat?
Hart.
Oh
No.
yeah, it was. Oh,
Anthony Kerr.
Nope,
Bill Lesage.
nope. Somewhere in between.
Lewis Wright.
Nope.
Oh, not Lenny Best.
No, I think you've run the changes enough. It was Orphy Robinson.
Oh,
Which saxophonist guested with Orphy on his album Black Top No. 2?
Courtney Pine.
Nope.
Steve Williamson.
No, this is somebody who might have had a career in the sciences. It was Evan Parker,
Wow.
Oh,
who I believe studied biochemistry or something in the early days.
I think he tried it as well.
Could be right there, Alex. I wouldn't know. What was the name of the label founded in 1970 by Evan Parker, Derek Bailey and Tony Oxley?
it's not Ogun, is it?
No, that has similar wifely connections, but a different person. I think that's Hazel Miller.
That's yeah.
No, this is Incus.
Oh, Incus, that's it.
Derek Bailey once said, jazz died in 1955. Who released This Is How I Feel About Jazz in 1956? Well done, Pete. Which of Quincy's tunes became the theme tune for the 1998 FIFA World Cup?
Oh, Soul Bossa Nova.
Yep, well done, Alan. What does bossa nova literally translate as?
Beat.
New beat.
New wave, new beat. Yeah, I think we got almost everyone on that one simultaneously. So I'm going to move on the grounds of a simultaneous one there. The new wave of British jazz is a currently overused expression in the media. Which decade was that really used in earnest last?
1980.
1990.
Yeah, 1980s, Pete. Well done.
80s. New.
Alan was on the forefront of it. I remember reading an article
oh,
Eh?
Only one, Pete.
about Alan and Guy. It was lovely.
The good old days.
Yeah.
Well, one of the groups to emerge from that period was the Jazz Warriors, who recently toured a quintet called the Jazz Warriors.
Gene Massa and Neil Yates.
Yes, well done. Neil runs the Llandudno Jazz Festival in North Wales. Who runs the Swansea Jazz Festival?
Dave Cottle.
Yeah. Well done, Alex. Which of the Cottle brothers played on the theme for the soap opera Emmerdale?
Lawrence.
Yeah, well done. Which British vocalist played Dr. Adam Forsyth in Emmerdale?
Richard Shelton.
Well done.
Oh,
Your
naughty.
knowledge of soaps is impeccable. What was the name of Neville Dickey's band formed in 1985?
The Rubber Band.
No, that was...
Oh, yeah.
Rhythm makers.
Yep, Alan, you're right. The Rhythm Makers. And finally, at next year's Edinburgh Festival, the Red Hot Rhythm Makers, which is an all-female New Orleans-inspired group, will be performing Where Do They Come From?
New Orleans.
No,
France.
no,
Glasgow.
not far off. They are from Scotland. They're
Edinburgh.
from all over Scotland. I'll give you half for that. Right, well, we have some very interesting scores here. So, Karen, you have a full sweep in the guest round, so brilliant. You're in the top 3 there, which is fantastic. I'm afraid that you are in 4th position in the overall quiz, but and Alex is in 3rd with a very creditable 12 marks. Alan is in 2nd place with 18.5, and Pete is this week's winner with 22.
Hey!
Oh,
Fix.
it's a
So, well done, Pete. Congratulations. And
That's
so it
amazing.
remains for me to say thanks very much to everybody for joining. Thanks to you for subscribing to the channel, and particularly for your donations, which help not only musicians, but also Macmillan Cancer Support. And now it's time to say goodbye, especially to our guest, Karen Sharp,
Hey!
to Alex Garnett.
Ta-ta.
In one corner, we have Alan Barnes.
Bye, folks. See ya.
And finally, tonight's winner, Pete Long.
See ya.
And for me, Alyn Shipton, goodbye as well.
That was Jazz Lockdown, a series of programs devised by Clark Tracey and presented by Alyn Shipton, with Pete Long, Alan Barnes and Alex Garnett, with special guest Karen Sharp. You are invited to donate as little as £1 towards each show, which will be equally divided between the contributors, with 50% of the total amount going to Macmillan Cancer Support, by following the PayPal link below. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to your company next time.